Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Tonight's guest is somebody that hasn't been on probably since October. Really big NBA fan, really big sports fan in general. Sports Dudes podcast zone. James Celestin, how are you doing on this fine evening?
I'm doing great, Madison. How you doing?
I'm good. All right, so I don't know where to start. There's a lot of drama and fun subplots of these NBA playoffs so far. So what do you think is the biggest playoff storyline right now as we speak?
Wow. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, you can look at LeBron, going for ring number 5, and if he gets 5, then people are going to reopen the Jordan LeBron debate. You can talk about chip playoff Jimmy. That's a real thing. You can talk about Jason Tatum dropping 51, but I don't know what the bigger story it is to me than what's going on in Philadelphia. I mean, you have the MVP and Joel Embiid, and yes, he had a small tear in his knee, but especially Game 7, and he gave you basically 15 points on 5 of 18 shooting. Harden gave you 9, and Doc Rivers once again 7 different times with different teams blowing 3-1 or 3-2 series lead. This is like unprecedented, and that's the story right there. Because what's going to happen in Philadelphia?
Yes, what's going to happen in Philadelphia is a big storyline. That's a good place to start. And first of all the credit in the world to Jason Tatum. We're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals in a little bit, but the Philly thing, James Harden, rumors about him going to Houston, Doc Rivers, there's a lot of subplot variables to this Philly thing, and for me, the most interesting thing is Joel Embiid's future with the team. There's a lot of people talking about Embiid as being the next potentially big name to be on the trade market, and our beloved New York Knicks are probably in the forefront of one of those teams that are licking their wounds thinking like, oh my goodness, hopefully this happens. But as a Knicks fan right now, I don't think it's realistic that Embiid becomes available unless if Harden leaves and some other stuff goes on. But I think that's the most interesting subplot of this Philly thing right now with Embiid.
I think going on with Joel Embiid, I think that's the biggest thing. I don't see Joel Embiid being available. I think he's going to be a Sixer for life. I think I'd be very surprised if Doc Rivers survives this. I'm sorry. You had a 3-2 lead, and you had 2 chances to go to the conference finals. You spent the last decade tanking. Remember the process. And can we officially say the process is dead? Because you have not gotten to the conference finals since then. You haven't even sniffed the conference finals. I mean, yeah, you came close when Jimmy Butler was on the team, and it took the Kawhi Leonard lucky shot for them to get there, but this is just bad. I think Harden is probably gone. There are rumblings that he wants to go back to Houston. I think he'll go back to Houston. I think what they'll probably do is try to rebuild around Joel Embiid because he is the franchise. I don't see the Sixers trading them within the conference, let alone in their own division, to a rival, which is the New York Knicks. So I see Harden going, and I see the Sixers rebuilding around him. I think Doc Rivers might have just coached his last game with the Sixers.
I think for sure Doc has coached his last game with the Sixers. I would put it at 80-20 that Doc is either in media or coaching another team next season. There's some Bucks rumors. The Ringers Bill Simmons threw out the Bucks when the Bucks fired Mike Budenholzer. That didn't play because Doc went to Marquette. Maybe he goes to ABC and ESPN and becomes like an analyst. Maybe Hubie Brown decides to retire and Doc goes to the ESPN booth and works with Dave Pasch or Mark Jones or whomever. He's not going to step on the Breen Van Gundy Jackson group, but maybe he's on the team below them with Doris Burke maybe. But yeah, Doc Rivers I think has some options as well. People are talking about Tobias Harris as a trade candidate. There's just a lot of Philly smoke, and honestly, nothing would really dumbfound me with this Philly team. And Tyrese Maxey's somebody I think has improved over the years, and maybe they look at him as a trade asset to go get that star with Joel. But there's a short list of guys I would trade Maxey for. Really short list. I'm big on Maxey. Are you a big Maxey fan?
I'm a huge Tyrese Maxey fan. I really like Tyrese Maxey. You know what's funny is that Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickly both were on Kentucky together. People know that. They were both on the Kentucky team together with John Calipari. So I really like Tyrese Maxey. I think he's proven that he's taken that step just like Quickly took in that step. I think Tyrese is a better player, but I'm a big Maxey guy. He's a bucket getter.
Yes, he is a big bucket getter, and unfortunately, Maxey, Embiid, and the Sixers won't be playing in the conference finals. Let's go to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics, who deserve all the credit in the world from coming back from 3-2 down. Jason Tatum turning it on the last 6 minutes of Game 6 in Philadelphia, and then putting up the 51 in Game 7. Celtics Heat, third time in 4 years. Do you think this is destined to go 7 games?
This is a 7-game series written all over it. I keep telling people, as I tweeted this, playoff Jimmy is a real thing. Now, albeit he didn't have that big Jimmy game against the Knicks, you can credit Tom Thibodeau for knowing Jimmy Butler very well. You can also look at Milwaukee and why the hell he needs to double team him. But playoff Jimmy is real. Playoff Jimmy is one of those dudes, even without Hero, without Oladipo, he's a guy that can get you 40 or 50. He's going to win you some games. And then Eric Spoelstra, when it's all said and done, Madison, Eric Spoelstra is going to be known as one of the top coaches to ever coach this game. And people just say he's a Pat Riley, he just does everything that Pat Riley does. And from what I've been hearing, Pat Riley is not really around the team. Everything that has been done is all Eric Spoelstra. So I'm big. I think Spo is going to coach the hell out of this series. Don't underestimate it. I know Missoula, is a young coach, but Spoelstra's a guy who's been there, done that. It's a 7-game series. I know Tatum and Brown are great, but this is 7 games, and I think you're going to see an interesting chess match with Spoelstra and Missoula going at it.
I love Eric Spoelstra, and I'm glad you're pumping him up because I think he's the best coach in the NBA at this very moment. All due respect to the great Greg Popovich, but the Spurs really haven't been relevant in a couple of years. So right now, for me, if you gave me one coach to coach a game for you, it's Eric Spoelstra. He has been the best coach in the playoffs thus far, and he really did a great job in the Knicks series and in the Bucks series with how he got his team to defend and shooting threes, and here they are, and I think have a chance to beat the Celtics and go to their second NBA Finals in a 4-year span. And for Boston, I just think that, like I mentioned before, Tatum is he's money, he's a superstar, and a lot of people were calling out Tatum, and rightfully so, after Game 5, but I really do think he is a superstar, and deserves all the credit and whatnot. I can't wait for this Eastern Conference Finals. Let's go to the Western Conference Finals. So, ironically enough, James, I don't know if you realize this, but this is the same Final Four as the bubble. What do you make about that?
I think everyone who says the bubble's not real, the bubble don't exist, it doesn't count, I think the bubble haters are going to be very upset because, let's start with Denver. I think if people don't respect Nikola Jokic's game, I don't know who is. Nikola Jokic is a beast. He's a superstar in this league. The man is slow. How is a man that's so slow-footed, who's not flashy like Embiid or demonstrative like Giannis, and he just quietly gets the job done? We've got to give props to Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray is not someone to be taken lightly. The the Nuggets bench is absolutely fantastic, especially with Eric Gordon, and you also got some nice role players and Michael Porter Jr. And then don't forget on Taylor's Caldwell Pope. This is not this Denver Nuggets team is very deep. Mike Malone's a really good coach. It's very interesting, and I'm very intrigued with how Denver does. And you look at the Lakers. It's the LeBron and AD show. And of course, though, you got unsung heroes like Rudy Hachimura stepping big, and Austin Reeves stepping in, and D'Angelo Russell stepping in. This has just been. It's also they feel like it's going to be a very tough series, and I'm very excited for this for both conference finals, and the rest is intriguing because you know AD has played very well against Jokic, so I'm very intrigued how Malone's going to adjust.
I'm very interested in this series. A fun subplot of this series, I realized this today. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was on the bubble Lakers team, and on the flip side, Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley, now on the Lakers, were on the Denver bubble team. So there's some players that are on the opposite sides of where they were in the bubble. Isn't that funny?
That is very that is very 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 funny. I I I'm gonna be I'm gonna be very 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 intrigued on that because I honestly had no idea about this until you mentioned this, and that's a very 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 interesting thing.
I think it is
I'm
very
with
interesting. Absolutely.
that's a very nice subplot because that's probably one of those underused things that no one's really talking about, and I'm very excited, man. And then these finals starts this week, man. I am very intrigued. This has been a very fun playoffs. I mean, if you think about it, like playoff Jimmy, Tatum balling out, Jalen Brunson proving to everyone why he's a star. How is this man not an All NBA or All Star is beyond me. You know, man, this has been a very fun NBA playoffs. Probably one of the very fun playoffs that's been a while because if you think about Madison in the NBA, just like in the NHL, it is a wide open field and it's parity. And also quick side note, if you're an NHL fan, we're about to see two expand like 3 of the 4 teams have been expansion teams that could win the Stanley Cup. So that's very cool. So I'm intrigued. These playoffs have been exciting. I'm really excited for the playoffs in the winter sports. I'm pumped.
Me too. And we talked about the player switching teams thing from the bubble teams to now. Another fun subplot of this series is obviously the battle of the bigs. To talk about how great Jokic is, but Anthony Davis and his ability to rise to the occasion, I think, is the main reason why the Lakers are here where they are. I mean, obviously the greatness of LeBron James too, but it can't be sold enough like how great Anthony Davis has been in these playoffs for sure.
Anthony Davis has been an absolute tear, and that's why I feel like this playoffs, this match between him and Jokic is going to be very intriguing because the one thing about Davis can do is Davis is a very good offensive player, and because of how skilled he is offensively, it's going to make Jokic work on defense. And how effective is Jokic going to be if he has to be guarding Anthony Davis? And Anthony Davis is, he can shoot, he can post, he can take it to the rim, he's a good free throw shooter. Like, all these things that Joker has to, deal with because Joker wasn't really challenged against DeAndre Ayton, and he wasn't challenged in the first round. So, it's gonna be interesting to see how Jokic is gonna do against Anthony Davis, who's a very skilled big man. And when Anthony Davis is playing, you can't tell me he's not a top 10 player in this league right now.
Yeah, Anthony Davis is playing like the guy that the Lakers traded for before the pandemic. The summer before the pandemic, they gave up all those assets, including Brandon Ingram, to get Davis. And I'm with you on the bubble haters. The Lakers now officially won that trade now, I think it's fair to say. Especially they're back in the Western Finals. They won a title with Davis already. And the key for them is just keep Davis healthy. And guess what? He's healthy right now. He's playing out of his freaking mind. And obviously, Brandon Ingram's a good piece to get back if you're in New Orleans. But anyone who called the Anthony Davis trade an L for the Lakers, just shut up because they won that Anthony Davis trade. End of rant about Anthony Davis.
they already won the trade when they won the championship. So to me, they already won the trade. And now that they're back in the conference finals and it's the same bubble rematch from the bubble, it already solidifies the fact that they won this trade because, yeah, you give a lot of picks, but in the end, Madison, if you win the championship, that already wins you the trade. Look at the Rams. They went all in. They traded for Matthew Stafford. They won a championship. Yes, they're paying the piper now, but when you win a championship, you will take the championship over the bad years any day of the week.
Absolutely. You take the championship over the bad years. Just ask the Rams. That's a very good comparison. And the Rams won the Super Bowl too, so I like that comparison a lot. And now both teams really won that trade. Look, the Lions, that's a rare win-win trade in the NFL, but in the NBA, this version with the Davis trade, right now I think the Lakers really won this trade, but not to say the Pelicans lost the deal, but Brandon Ingram's a good player in his own right. So let's move on here. Let's talk about this unfortunate story that broke yesterday morning involving Ja Morant, speaking of the Western Conference. Very disappointed in Ja Morant. I talked about it on my regular show today. Do you think he's going to be suspended? Because I do, and I think it's going to be for a good amount of next season. What do you make of this mess?
Ja Morant is going to be suspended. I truly think he's going to get probably close to one of the largest suspensions in the NBA. I can see him getting suspended for at least 35, 40 games, at least half a year, if not more, because first off, you have to be there's something wrong with him. There is something wrong. I don't know what you feel you have the need to show your weapon on Instagram Live and thinking that no one's going to see it. And secondly, this is the second time you did this. Looking back in March when you went to a Denver strip club and you had all of these you had the same weapons and coming into the club and you're lucky they didn't even press charges. So I feel like there's something wrong with him, but I'm sorry, that is completely dumb. It's yes, he needs to seriously get help, but that was just completely dumb on his part. I'm sorry. You flashing your handgun on social media, what do you think was going to happen? That was just dumb. That was really, really dumb, and that's inexcusable. I'm sorry. You're costing yourself generational money. Ja Morant is one of the fastest young players in the NBA. He was the second pick behind Zion, and it's really unfortunate that he's really costing himself not only millions, but he's costing himself his NBA career if he keeps doing that. There's a saying: "You are who the company you keep." And whatever company that he has with him, he needs to cut them out, because it's really a shame that he's doing all of this and he's wasting away what could be a great NBA career. He could be an ambassador for all the young kids. He's a high flyer. He's basically reminds me of a young athletic Allen Iverson, and he's making really boneheaded decisions. I'm sorry.
I agree with you 100%. Very bad decisions. Part of me wonders if the Grizzlies kind of regret not getting an adult. Like, Steven Adams, to me, doesn't really qualify as the adult in the room. I'm sorry. I know he was hurt most of the year, but, P.J. Tucker is somebody that I consider an adult in this league. Chris Paul is somebody I consider an adult in this league. Even LeBron's an adult. The Grizzlies don't have that adult. And I really think that hurt them this season, too, when things spiraled out of control, and then all the Ja stuff that happened in Denver that you just alluded to happened. Memphis really lacked that, and I really think this offseason the Grizzlies need to go find that adult player that they've lacked.
What's funny is that, and it's funny that you say that, and I couldn't agree more. I think the biggest problem in Memphis going on is that they let the early success get to their head. I mean, think about it. When they were winning games and everybody was flashing, you see Dylan Brooks talking and John talking and Desmond Bain talking and Jaren Jackson Jr. talking. Everyone's yeah. There's a party in my city, talk all this stuff, but they're getting what they became from a fun, lovable team to a very hated team, and they just let it get to their heads. And then, unfortunately, they didn't have that veteran that told them, all right, sit down, we need to have a discussion. And unfortunately, they're trying to recover from it, but unfortunately, it's kind of too late now. You should have had like a veteran presence who's still a good player that these young kids can listen to. So, or like a respected veteran, like a Chris Paul, like a PJ Tucker, someone of that ilk that can teach these kids how to be a professional. And unfortunately, because they don't have that, this is what happens. Like, you're seeing Dylan Brooks duck in the media after he got humbled like LeBron James. You're seeing like John Morant continue to do these dumb decisions. You're seeing like all these Memphis players like not saying nothing after they got humbled. So I really think that Memphis needs to their job this free agency is trying to change this roster and get a veteran in this room, because they're still on paper a really good team. But my God, man, they need a veteran presence that can teach these kids how to be, a pro. And they don't have that, and this is why these things happen, why they happen.
Exactly. Let's do a couple of teams that we didn't discuss yet that have been eliminated. Let's stay in the West. The Phoenix Suns will start with, only because I just saw a tweet that I think you and I are going to make fun of for obvious reasons. I completely disagree with the Suns' decision to fire Monty Williams. I think that was a major overreaction to the blowout loss against Denver and in last year's against Dallas, and of course Matt Ishbia having new owner syndrome. But I just saw this tweet right here. Frank Isola said on Sirius XM NBA, "I would not be shocked if Isaiah Thomas is the coach of this team." I cannot stop laughing.
That if Ishbia has not learned from what happened in New York with James Dolan, well, good luck to you. Because listen, Isaiah Thomas as a player, Hall of Fame player. As a coach / executive, oh my God. I mean, it's not Phil Jackson bad, but it's pretty bad. I mean, I feel like the only great player executive that actually did, or player executive that did pretty well, Danny Ainge is one. He was not a Hall of Fame player, but he was a good player with the Celtics. He's a very good executive. And Larry Bird did pretty well when he was the executive of the Pacers. I mean, my God. And Isaiah Thomas? What? You think Kevin Durant signed up for that? You think Devin Booker signed up for this? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That is, yikes. As far as Phoenix as a team, I agree. I feel like that was a complete overreaction. I feel like DeAndre Ayton has to go. I feel like he cost them that series. I feel like why Phoenix decided to bring him back, I have no idea. You should have let him walk. Now you really just can't get rid of him. He's got to go, and that's just a shameful. He's got to get out of there. And I think though that. I think a guy that could be good for them. I think maybe a Mike Budenholzer can go to Phoenix, and I think with his style, and they've won a lot of games, I think he did win a championship with Giannis. I think he could be someone interested. So I think that's the direction I go in.
Yeah, Budenholzer makes sense for the Suns. Another name I saw was Ty Lue, but I don't see Ty Lue leaving the Clippers. I think Ty Lue has proven some doubters wrong, including myself. I always thought that Ty Lue was like a product of LeBron when LeBron was at Cleveland, but his success with the Clippers, especially when they had those injuries, I think Ty Lue has proven me wrong. He's a really, really good coach, and I don't know if the Clippers are willing to let him go, because I don't think they are. I really don't think they're willing to let Ty Lue go, especially to their in-division rival in the Suns, because they're just randomly, Phoenix, it was reported that they wanted to pursue Ty Lue away from the Clips, but I don't see that happening. So Budenholzer, to me, is the right call there. What did you make of the Ty Lue rumors?
I thought that was funny, and I do not see Ty Lue leaving the Clippers. I think, if anything, I think you're going to have to find a way to move from either Kawhi or Paul George, because they both just can't stay healthy. I think the Clippers are a very deep team, but man, I think they're just snake bitten because Kawhi and George they just can't stay healthy. They just can't stay healthy, because when they're healthy, the Clippers are one of the better teams in the league, but they just can't stay healthy. They can't. And I think Lue has proven that he's a very good coach, a very smart coach, and he's not just a product of, of the LeBron James. I mean, like we said earlier about Eric Spoelstra. People think that he's gonna do Pat Riley's bidding, and now like we said about how Spoelstra's a damn good coach. I think we got to give some praise to Ty Lue and credit how he is a really good coach, and and maybe yes, it helps that when you have LeBron and Kyrie, but maybe it was not all just LeBron and Kyrie that won that title in 2016. Maybe we should start paying attention to how good of a coach Ty Lue is.
Exactly. And the other team we have to talk about in the Western Conference that just got eliminated, the Golden State Warriors. A lot of people are speculating that this could very well be it for the dynasty of this group. I mean, I'm really referring to Clay and Draymond rather than Steph, because Steph is the safest superstar in the league in terms of he ain't going nowhere. And Clay and Draymond's futures are in the air. I mean, Bob Myers' future's in the air. I mean, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Steve Kerr not coaching the Warriors next year. So what do you think's next for the Golden State Warriors?
I think they're going to try to trade Jordan Poole. I think they kind of realize how important Draymond is. I know Draymond can be a headache. I know Draymond talks a lot. I know Draymond can be a nuisance. But he's important to that team because of his defense, his tangibles, a very smart, shrewd player. I think Draymond will stay. I think Jordan Poole's going to go. I find it hard for them to move Clay. I think they like Clay. I think, remember, Clay's just coming back from an injury. So I think another year healed, a proper offseason, I think you'll see the real Klay Thompson. I think Bob Myers will stay. I think they'll probably have a last dance, like one more thing. I think next year I can see them being it. It's hard for me when you have a team with Steph Curry. It's hard for me to say, is this it? Because we all know, Madison, Steph Curry is going to retire Golden State Warrior. He's like, there's a very few forever players. Very few players retire with the same team. I mean, my God, Patrick Ewing was a supersonic at one point. But I think like Steph Curry is going to be in that, that Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan era as guys who started with one team and retire with one team. I think Clay will stay. I think Poole's going to get traded. I think you have to trade Poole because ever since Draymond punched Poole in the face, that relationship has not been the same. I think they're going to retool. I think they're gonna extend Myers. And I think they're gonna keep the core as it is, but I think they're gonna trade around and trade Jordan Poole, and they're going to rebuild. And I think they'll be back next year.
Yeah, we'll see about that. If you at gunpoint, I think the big three is most likely back, but I don't feel good about it. It's like 50-50, but slight lean towards all three of them are back. I agree with you on Poole. And Bob Myers, I think he's back too, but I don't feel super about that either. And the other team that got eliminated over the weekend was our beloved New York Knicks. I did a post-mortem on them on my regular show today, as I did with the Sixers, Warriors, and the Suns. And I'm proud of the Knicks. I feel that Miami probably should have been favored over us in the series because, I'm saying us like we're on the team, they probably should have been favored because of playoff Jimmy, and I thought the Heat were going to be favored over us. And I was surprised the Knicks were favored in that series as they were, but Miami came through, and now the question is, what's next for the Knicks? I think that it's most likely Julius Randle's on another team next year. R.J. Barrett, I think, is a little bit of a wild card here, but the most important thing is that the Knicks finally have that franchise point guard that they've been lacking for years.
This is what I think. I think Randle will get traded this offseason. I think Leon Rose and Tibbs, I think if you give them truth serum, they know that Randle is a good regular season player, but the Knicks are going to be a championship team. Randle, unfortunately, is not going to be part of that team. I think RJ, I'm leaning staying, but I'm going to be honest, Madison, I'm not confident in that. I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to move him. Good thing with the Knicks, they do have a lot of draft picks, a lot of first-round draft picks, and I'm confident that the Knicks will get the pick that from Dallas because I think, it would set a bad precedent if Dallas kept their pick, even though they got fined for tanking. So it would set a really bad precedent if they got fined for tanking and they keep their pick. I think Karma will do it justice and they'll fall 11 and 12 and Knicks will get their pick, which will give them another trade thing to trade their pick to attach it to a Julius Randle. I think the Knicks are going to look a little bit different next year. I think Jalen Brunson has proven to everyone that he is a star in this league. I think everyone recognizes it. I think the Knicks, it's kind of like how the Jets couldn't find their quarterback, even though, Rodgers is older, but the Knicks finally found that superstar point guard since Walt Clyde Frazier. That's the guy. Now, the goal for the Knicks is simple. You have to trade Julius Randle. You have to find a star to pair alongside Brunson, and then you see what you have with RJ and whatnot, and then you have to make some tweaks to the roster. I mean, Fournier is going to be gone. Unfortunately, I love Derrick Rose, but I don't see Derrick Rose on this team as much as Tibbs loves him, but this is the end of the road for D Rose. I think Quickly is back. Robinson is the thing about Mitchell Robinson is he's a great defensive player, but he is so limited offensively. He's kind of like a hybrid Tyson Chandler. I think Hartenstein's a very good player. Josh Hart is very limited, but he's a guy that he's a glue guy, energy guy. He gets you big rebounds. Plus, I think if I'm the Knicks, there's some names I would keep an eye on. Karl Anthony Towns is the guy to keep an eye on. OG Anunoby is another guy to keep an eye on. I think the situation in Boston is something interesting because if you think about it, with the new CBA rules, it's very hard to extend 2 max players and you don't have enough money for your role players. Because I know Tatum is that guy that should get the max, and rightfully so, because Tatum is the better player of the two. So I think that's a guy to keep in mind. I'm not saying that Boston is going to trade Brown to the Knicks, but that's a name to keep in mind. I think you can firmly say, Madison, that the Knicks are in the right direction, even though it's disappointing that they lost to an 8 seed. I think you can firmly say, very confidently, that the Knicks are in the right direction, and now they have people that actually want to play for New York. So I think the Knicks are in a very good direction.
They're heading in the right direction, absolutely. But the Knicks didn't just lose to an 8 seed. They lost to an 8 seed that is overqualified to be an 8 seed and a team that underachieved in the regular season. I don't know why they lost to the freaking Hawks in the 7-8 play-in game. They're better than the Hawks. And in reality, the Miami Heat are probably the 4th best team in the Eastern Conference behind Philly, Milwaukee, and Boston. And maybe even the 3rd if you think they're better than Philly right now. But Miami is just not an 8 seed. That's the best 8 seed we've seen since the 1999 Knicks. I said that on my regular show. I'm going to say it again. That Miami team is way better than your typical 8 seed because nobody's really recognizing that. And I'm really saying that because Knicks Twitter is obviously going nuts over losing to an 8 seed.
Miami Heat are an overqualified 8 seed. Another comparison you can make is, remember when the Kings were an 8 seed back in 2012, but they were so damn good because the Western Conference was so damn good that they didn't even play like an 8 seed. That's kind of like the Heat and the Knicks. They, in the 1999 Knicks, they are so good that they underachieved. But in the postseason, they just know how to turn up. And think about it. The Heat were missing important pieces. I mean, Tyler Hero is not a scrub. Tyler Hero makes some big shots, and he also used to kill. Tyler Hero got big numbers against the Knicks. I mean, imagine if the Heat were healthy, and they had Oladipo, and they had Tyler Hero alongside Jimmy. I'm sure it would still go 6 or 7, but I think the Heat would largely be favored. I mean, they should have never lost to the Hawks, but I'm saying, though, that Knicks Twitter, let's calm down, let's take a breath. This was a very good season, a very fun season, and now you look at what you need to do, and now you know what players you need to bring back and bring up. Because now, here's the thing. The pressure is now on Tom Thibodeau. Because even though you bring Tom Thibodeau back, is Tom Thibodeau the coach that if he has the players that he should have, is he the guy that can win you a championship? That's the question you're going to ask.
Yep, exactly. And now the pressure and expectations are only going to get higher for the Knicks. One last thing before we go. Tomorrow night is the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. You kind of alluded to it earlier, making your hot take of the podcast that the Knicks will get the 11th or 12th pick in the draft. I'm not sure if I'm going to join you on that prediction or not. I'm going to have to think long and hard about it because I'm probably going to do my predictions on how the lottery is going to play out on tomorrow morning's podcast because I just need some time to think about that. But it's a big day tomorrow in the NBA. Victor is the most highly touted prospect since LeBron. I know we thought about that with Zion a couple years ago, but Zion's always hurt, and it's just unfortunate with his situation. So that's why I kind of want to temper the expectations with Wembanyama just a little bit because I just remember the Zion hype, and Zion really hasn't stayed healthy. But Wembanyama looks like the real deal. How do you feel about Victor Wembanyama, and what teams do you think would best fit for him?
Victor looks like he's going to be a star. I've seen a lot of his games, and this guy looks like legit. I think a team like the Spurs could use him, but I feel like his personality is a problem. Not saying a problem, but you know how the Spurs are. And you look at a guy like Tim Duncan, he's a Hall of Fame player, but he was very quiet. He's on the Spurs, and the Spurs are a quiet team. I feel like he needs to be in a bigger market, man. I feel like a team who's been. I feel like he should be on a team that's like that's a big market team that you can get exposure to. Like the Spurs, to me, I wouldn't be very happy if he went to the Spurs, even though I feel like he'd be a Greg Popovich kind of guy to me. But I just feel like he should be on a team that's like, maybe a team like maybe Houston's a big market. That could be a team that could be intriguing. Maybe he goes to Charlotte and Michael Jordan. Jordan technically still on the team, but maybe Detroit, because they got some young pieces, especially with Jalen Ivey there, and I don't know. It's very tough, but I can tell you this though: whoever gets him is going to be a very happy person.
Absolutely, I think that whoever lands him is going to be happy. And it's just ironic that we had the NHL lottery last week. We don't have to get into that. I went on an epic rant about the Chicago Blackhawks winning that draft lottery. You probably feel
rigged. It was rigged. I'll stand by it.
I'm standing right there with you, James. Right there with you, buddy. And I went on a big rant about it.
It's rigged because they want Bettenard on a big market team and did not want him to go out in purgatory in Anaheim, so they put him in the dumpster fire, which is known as Chicago right now, with all their scandals right now. They think, let's give him to Chicago right now. It was rigged because they want a big market team to be on the map, and if you have Bettenard on Chicago, even though it's pretty much Kane is gone, Taves is gone, Holzer is gone, Crawford's gone, pretty much everything from the Stanley Cup team is gone. You put Bettenard on the Blackhawks, they draw tickets. They did that on purpose. I'm dying on this hill.
Oh, yeah. I'm right there with you. I think that Bedard should be playing in Montreal. That was the team I thought was going to get Bedard, and I thought that they were going to punish Chicago, like how you think they're going to punish the Mavericks tomorrow night, but different situations, though. Chicago's much being way worse, meaning the Blackhawks. But Wembanyama and Bedard are both franchise-changing guys. It's just ironic that they are arriving in the same year, don't you think?
I kind of find it funny because if you remember, like the draft last year was a very weak draft, just like the draft in the NHL last year was a weak draft. But this year is a very strong draft, and I feel like you have the franchise-changing guys in Bettenard and Wembanyama, and I think though that because since Betnard is in the big market, because Chicago's a big market, I think the NBA, I'm under my conspiracy hat. I think they're going to find a way for NBA to end up in like a decent sized market. I think Houston is a bigger market than San Antonio. I could see Houston or any team that's a big market team, so that Yamba can get exposed, just like Betnard is going to get exposure now. Don't be surprised if you see Blackhawks get a lot of national TV time because of Betnard. Just like whoever gets Wembanyama, they're going to get a lot of national attention because of them. And I think, unlike Zion, I believe that those two guys are going to live up to the hype and exactly why they were picked number one overall. So, very intriguing, and I'll stand by this. The Knicks are going to get Dallas's pick, whether it's 11th or 12th. They're going to get the pick, and it's a way of punishing Dallas for intentionally taking games. And I think the Knicks made a call to Adam Silver because they were taking games on purpose so the Knicks don't get their pick.
I agree 100% with that theory, but I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger and make that prediction with you. But maybe I'll decide by tomorrow. We'll see. You would have to listen to the podcast tomorrow to see if I join you or not. But I'll let you know privately, probably before I even post the podcast. So, James, it was such a pleasure to have you on. And hopefully I get you on next month so we would potentially have some finals and maybe a better idea of, like, trades and whatnot. And plus we have other sports to talk about down the road.
Yes, madam. I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime, my friend.